In the Hebrew language, when we ask somebody, how are you? To a woman, it's ma shlomech. To a man, it's ma shlomcha, plural ma shlomchem or chen. What we're asking is, how are you? How are you doing? But we're not really asking that literally. When you and I ask each other, how are you? What are we asking for? What kind of detail do we want? What aspect of the person are we really trying to get a hold of, a sense of? In the Hebrew, let me give you an idea of what you're literally asking when you say, even casually, how are you? Ma shlomcha, or ech. If you think about it, if you recognize the word shalom, it isn't a mistake. It's because the center of how are you is shalom. It's almost like you're asking, the birds are asking next to me, what is the state of your shalom? You at this moment, what's the state of your peace? Isn't that a beautiful idea? To ask that of each other? What's the condition of your peace? What's the state of your shlemut? Shlemut, shalom, they come from the same root, which is essentially shalem, which means whole, which means that peace comes from wholeness. It comes from integration. It comes from synergy. It comes from being at one with ourselves. So now if I ask you or you ask me, ma shlomcha or ma shlomech, how are you? If we're thoughtful, we might give a different answer than fine, not fine. We might think more deeply about the question. I think a lot about questions, as you might have noticed in the pattern of my questions. But I also think about perspective a lot. The difference between being at peace and being not at one with ourselves, being at odds with ourselves, being fragmented, which probably every single one of us is at times, not only in our lives, but even in a single day. And then I'm asking you and asking myself, so what is it that takes us out of that integrity, that place of oneness? And sometimes it's the last choice we made, and maybe that's supposed to drop us out of integrity so that we notice that we made an act, made a choice that wasn't our best selves. And the good thing is we can change the next choice we make, so we're not stuck living that moment. This isn't Groundhog Day, constantly revisiting a mistake we made in our lives. Luckily, we're more interesting than that, though I like Bill Murray in the movie. But another thought is, when we ask ourselves, what is it that changes our minds? I love that phrase as well. Sometimes it's what we're ingesting, what we're taking in, the movies that we're watching, the TV that we're watching, the games we're playing, and also the news and the stories that we are literally ingesting, taking into our system like food. They're either going to nourish us or they're going to deplete us. So we have to be thoughtful about what it is that we're willing, sometimes even addictively, to be pulling in and pulling in and pulling in. Sometimes that iPhone can be put down. We don't constantly have to read the latest message that has a purpose, which might be to sell that message and to ramp up our stress and anxiety. So maybe we come to a realization that we have little control in our lives. That's the big highlight, the headline of the year 2020, if you've missed it. But maybe one of the things we realize that we can ultimately have some control over is both the choices we make to the best of our ability, because we can't constantly be in control of our choices. And also our perspective, what we see and how we interpret what we see. You and I use our eyes to see, but we use our brain to interpret what our eyes are seeing. So we can see something, but then we as individuals have to be thoughtful about how we interpret it and how we allow that to affect us, what it changes in it, us, what it creates in us. Sometimes perspective is using one eye to look outward into the world and see its troubles and its beauty. And there's so much beauty, many greater sources of beauty than trouble. And maybe use the other eye for a totally different purpose, which is to look inward. Whether you're 12 or 55 or 96, you can be using both eyes, each one for a different purpose. Looking out, saying, what can I do to help, to create, to build, to generate, to nurture, to love, to sweeten. And the other, to look inward and say, what can I do to be reflective and to see myself in this story and to ask myself if I'm living this moment, not all, just this moment, to the best of my ability. So I hope this is a good thought and something that's helpful for you. And I look forward to continuing our stories and questions and sometimes conversations as well.